Hey, you ever make mistakes? I just did. Hey, this is Linda Sunshine West. I'm super excited about today's show because I'm going to be interviewing author Kristina Rienzi. She has several different books that she has out. We're going to touch on those, but also she has something else she's working on. We'll be talking about that as well. She's a Jersey Shore-based new adult thriller author, coach, and former president of Sisters in Crime, CJ. When she's not writing or drinking wine, Kristina is spoiling her little girl, watching Lifetime, singing to yacht rock radio, or rooting for the WVU Mountaineers. She believes in all things paranormal, a closet full of designer bags, the law of attraction, aliens, angels, and the value of a graduate degree in psychology. Her debut audiobook, Among Us, was featured on Audible's ACX University and is an Audible Editors Select pick. So welcome to the show, Kristina. I'm excited to have you today. How are you doing?
Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Linda. I'm doing great.
Well, it's interesting because as I read your bio, like there's all these fun things, and I was reading it and thinking, you know what, I should spice mine up because mine is kind of boring, and yours is fun because you touch on some personal things as well. So I'm curious, how did you come about writing that particular bio? Because I read a lot of bios, and most of them are pretty boring, I must admit. So how'd you come up with that bio?
Yeah, so it's funny because I always wrote the boring bio too, and I have several of those depending on what I need it for. But I actually took a class. It was through Sisters in Crime Central Jersey, which I was a president of at the time, I believe. And we have a lot of great speakers come, right? And so we had this author, also a social media kind of expert. Her name is Rona Goffstein. She's also a writer and has become a friend. Great lady. And she did a whole presentation on just marketing yourself, social media, your bio, and we really went through what your bio should be. And it should really be about not just what you do and how people will come to know you as an author and what you write, but also who you are. And so she made us actually go through an exercise of picking some things that were important to us and putting them out in the world that defined us, and things that they would likely hear, our readers would likely hear us talking about or kind of posting about and things like that. So it was fun, a great experience.
That's cool. So I like that. I'm gonna model mine after yours in a way. Of course, I won't have the same words because it wouldn't be me. But it's interesting.
Right.
This week I was at an event, and it was an incredible event. I've been going since 2015. It was my first event since the pandemic, and first live event since the pandemic. And I've myself, like I'm a publisher, and I publish, different collaboration books is mainly what is my genre is these collaboration books. And the ladies got together and gave me a gift, and I was opening it up, and there it said that I myself, Linda Sunshine, that I have a star actually in the heavens called Linda Sunshine. And I was
How
like, maybe
beautiful.
I should add that to my bio, right? Because that's kind of
Yes.
cool.
That's so cool. Anything that's, uniquely you. I mean, that's what you got to do. Put it out there. People want to get to know you, and, rightfully so, right? They know you, they want to read your books, and it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Well, I want to touch on, like, how did you get into writing? Have you been writing forever, or is this something new for you? How did you get into it?
So I've always loved writing fiction. I've been writing fiction since I was a little kid. As a lot of authors will say, they want to be an author when they grew up. That's what I wanted to be too. I wrote short stories as I got a little older, and actually my stories from young childhood were dark as well. I write dark stories, thrillers, things that get your heart beating and pumping, fast paced. And yeah, about I would say now it's almost 12 years ago, I decided I wanted to write.
Uh-oh, did I lose her? If you could, I see somebody's watching in the comments. You can let me, can you hear Kristina? Because I seem to have lost her, which is like, oh, I want to get into it. I want to find out what she's up to. Can you hear either of us? Are we frozen? Oh, there we go. You were frozen, Kristina, just so you know, for probably a good 30 seconds or so.
Okay. I'll start over. I'll kind of rewind a little bit. So about 11 years ago or so, I decided to write. I wanted to write more professionally from a fiction standpoint. So I joined a local writer group, and we met at the library, and it was a bunch of, seasoned authors, people who had been published, people who were trying to get published. And we would bring a story in, and I just started bringing short, 1,500 words in for, critique. I learned that way, and then, eventually started, taking some classes. I really just wanted to take it a little bit more seriously and try to make it a little bit more of a professional gig. And yeah, by 2014, I had my first debut novel published. That was Choosing Evil, and that was published through Small Press, and they picked up Breaking Evil, and then from there on, I just kept writing.
Okay, so the first one was which one did you say was the first?
So Choosing Evil was my debut novel, and its sequel is Breaking Evil. And then I wrote a series of novellas. I wrote Winter Road, Luring Shadows. Actually, Luring Shadows was part of a multi-author novella project where we had very kind of a similar setting and story, like characters, but we were all allowed to write in our own genre. So
Okay.
yeah, if you go to my book, so Choosing Evil, Breaking Evil, those are my novels. And then my first set of novels from my small press publisher. And then I went on to, like I said, write a few novellas. I joined in with Sisters in Crime to do 30 Shades of Dead, which was, it was actually our 30th anniversary. And so we were using it to create an anthology, and I have a story in there called Gone on the 4th of July, and they all had to do with the number 30. So everything in the story had to be related to the number 30. I also wrote I'm trying to think of, Twisted, which is a collection of short stories that I had put together. There's 3 short stories in Twisted. They're all listed individually there, but also the box set right there. So yeah, I just, a lot of my stuff, all of my stories are thrillers. A lot of them venture into sci-fi, paranormal, but also domestic thrillers, like domestic suspense. And they're really based around relationships and families. So those are the areas I'm interested from a thriller standpoint. So that's what I write in. It excites me. I write about things that scare me. So.
Okay, I find that fascinating because if I'm scared of something, I'm gonna like steer away from it. But you like run straight into it, and you said you've been like that since you were young. So what is it? Was there anything about your family that were they into this as well? Like how the heck? I remember when I was a kid, because I was born in the 60s, and there was the movie by Alfred Hitchcock called The Birds, and it was like a big time thriller movie, especially back in that day. Right. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, you cannot watch this movie. You cannot watch this movie. So what did I do? I peeked it, over the corner, and I watched the movie, and it scared the crap out of me. Mm-hmm. So like I stayed away from that kind of stuff, but I was just curious, like, do you have this running in your family or what?
So it's really funny because my mom loved mysteries. She loved like unsolved mysteries and those kinds of things. And so I always would watch that stuff with her. And I found this kind of stuff intriguing. I mean, I eventually went into get my education in psychology. And so I got my graduate degree in psychology. And I think it was like just thinking about like the good and bad, good versus evil, like how the human mind works, human behavior, that kind of stuff as I got older. But when I was younger, it's really the thrill of it. I like the feeling of being scared in a safe place. It helps me overcome my fears. And therefore, I feel like I'm triumphing over some obstacle, some fear. And so, yes, through my writing, I write through my fears. I face fears of things that scare me. I go through the emotions. Hope my readers do too. And then hopefully my readers will come out the other side with my characters and me as we go on the journey. But it's really about facing my fears versus living with them in charge of me, which I struggle with. We all do, but that is something that I struggle with. It's like I am afraid of a lot of things. I have anxiety over things. So I get through that by watching scary things, reading scary stories, writing scary things. That's my cathartic way of dealing with it. And it definitely helps. Also, I found out later on that my grandmother on my father's side was really into sci-fi. She loved like all the sci-fi movies and shows. And I love that too. I love Twilight Zone from the 60s. I love all of that kind of stuff. So I feel like there maybe is an aspect that's genetic, because I didn't know that about her, and we're very much alike in that way. So just interesting to see.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know if you know this, but in 2015, I decided to face a fear every single day that year. It was a commitment that I made to myself. I'm so glad I did, but I never thought of, because basically, if you think about it, what you're saying is it's sort of a form of journaling through your fears, but then you actually turn it into a novel. So it's kind of cool. You turn this like journaling, so to speak, into an incredible novel. And how did it feel to publish your first novel? Because you have the short stories, then you have the novels. So how did it feel to publish that first novel? Did you have any fears of judgment? What are people going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? They're going to hate my writing,
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. Like, what was that like?
Okay. So I wanted to set it on fire. The minute it went out, I was like, it's live on Amazon. No, I freaked out. Like, what I do to myself? Because, I'm a private person by nature. I'm also an introvert. So for me, like, I mean, if I'm one-on-one with somebody, totally social, outgoing, but like in like life, I'm an introvert. So for me, I was like, oh my God, I just went public. What is this? What's happening? Yeah, very scared, very proud of myself for pushing past my fear of exposing myself. Because by the way, when you write a novel, even though it's fiction, a lot of you is in there, authors, like, it's just the way it is. The author's in there. So yeah, exposing that like rawness. And then also, being afraid people wouldn't like it and everything. And I was, yes, wanted to set it on fire. Was very upset, very like, I regretted it, and then of course it did pretty well. It hit like in the top 50 in horror at the time, which I thought was awesome as a new author. Right. And so I felt like, okay, like this isn't terrible. Let me embrace this. And over the years, of course, I've written many more novels, more short stories, just written in general more, and been out in the public eye more. And I feel like it has grown me as a human, and it has also taught me to not worry so much about the outcome. Like, don't be so tied to the outcome. Don't worry about how it's going to be received. Put your very best into it. Put your heart and soul into it. Do what you do as a writer creatively, and some will like it and some won't. And you know what? Neither one of them, they're both going to feel, you're going to feel something from both of those things, right? You're going to feel hurt or you're going to feel proud. But at the end of the day, like, I am not going to change who I am as a result of it. And I feel like I just need to let the book do what it's going to do. Like, my job is to write the book to the best of my ability and put out a product that people will hopefully like, but I cannot control how it's going to be received. And so I let that go now, which I think is an awesome learning curve and growth for me, because in the beginning it was I had a lot of fear about the judgment and the reviews and how it was going to sell and really be received. And I was afraid. And that fear can stop you from writing again.
That's for sure. That fear can stop you from doing a lot of things, right? Just from living your life. Well, that's
Definitely.
great. I'm so glad to hear that you pushed through. You didn't pull it off. You didn't burn it, burn the boats. I mean, you did burn the boats, really. You just like kept going forward. And here you are. How many novels have you written so far then?
So I've written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm looking at my list because it's like, I've written 7 books. I'm on my 8th. I would say 4 of them are novels. And then there's short stories and novellas, which I consider, it's practically a novel, but shorter. But yeah, so I've written a lot of books, and I go through binge writing where like I write a lot and quickly, and then I like take a break. Life gets crazy for me, and I tend to take breaks from writing, even though I know that that doesn't work for every author, but it works for me. But yeah, I'm in my motion now to get my first nonfiction completed and out in the world.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because going from the fiction world to, your first nonfiction. So I want to hear like a little bit about the shift in the mindset. Like, what made you decide to go over there? What is it about? What are you working on now?
Sure. So my whole entire life, from a professional standpoint, outside of being an author, I've lived my life, I've dedicated my life from education to job experience in helping professions, right? I have my master's degree in psychology. I have my certified professional coach certificate. I actually have a certificate in happiness studies. I've been a leader in organizations, human resources and communications. So my whole life has really been around the nonfiction realm. Like, fiction was kind of my passion and my hobby and something that I really had to work on. Nonfiction's been something that just comes naturally to me. So with that being said, I decided, you know what, with the pandemic over the last year, and everything I've been hearing from people is just how they're feeling down. And I started taking courses in happiness and well-being. And I decided, you know what, let me put a piece together on happiness. And so it was really important for me to learn more about the science behind happiness and to find some things that I felt might work in helping somebody get from a place where you're kind of stuck in the moment in an emotion. Like, for example, listen, I don't think any emotion is bad. I think we should feel all the feels. Like, if you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, be angry. Like, we're not trying to replace anger with happiness, but there are times we can get stuck in a funk where we can't get out of our own way. And in those times, I wanted to give people quick and easy resources to pull yourself out and feel good. And so I did the research. I went to, I went into the science behind it. I took my courses. I got my certification. I did all this. And I decided that I wanted to put a book out on happiness. And the working title is How to Be Happy Now. And it's really just about in the moment and really simple things you can do in the moment to get yourself out of that funk. Because we've all been there. And again, no emotion is bad. You got to feel all the feels. It's really healthy to do that, but we don't want to get stuck and we don't want to plant ourselves in a negative place because it is very destructive, not only on us mentally, but physically. It does have an impact. So yeah, that was kind of my passion project, my goal. And I thought, I have all this education. I have all this knowledge. Like, why am I not sharing it? This is silly. This is like, people could use this. This could help. Why not?
Just noticed I muted. That's fantastic. I love it when we find those things that we want to do, we're passionate about, and we actually do them, because you do have this knowledge base, and not only that, but the experiences that you've had that you can pour over to other people. And I'm actually, one of my mentors, he's working on a project called The Secret of Happiness. And they're going to do this thing where they're going to go around the world and interview people about happiness. What does happiness mean to you? So really get down to the root of it, And so I didn't even know that there was a course like about happiness. That's fascinating. And I see how important that is. I myself have found my own, joy and happiness within myself, through having coaches and stuff. But I see that there's definitely a need for people to learn how to tap into the happy, right? Tap into the happy. And so when are you expecting that to come out, your book?
So I'm hoping to get it out by the end of the year, and that way we can just, start 2022 off on the right foot, I feel like. But I love that your mentor is doing that kind of work. And, this has been around forever. We call it happiness studies and well-being and all that, but it's positive psychology. It's been around forever. And we're turning it into something that people get and they understand. I think when you say stuff like positive psychology, people are like, what is that? What does that mean? You know what happiness is. We know what that feels like. We know when we don't feel it. We know when we feel it. I mean, it's that simple. So I think, there's a lot more to it, but for sure, any work anybody can do to kind of make us more self-aware of that. I think, we are living this life. Let's feel good while we're here.
Yeah, definitely. Feel good. That's for sure. We're talking to Kristina Rienzi. You can find her books at KristinaRienzi.com. That's KristinaRienzi.com. You can find her there. Kristina, I ask one question, like a final question of all of my guests, and I'd love to know from you, what would you tell people to do? Like the very first, wait, I'm sorry, let me go back into my brain waves and tap into them. So what is one action step that you would recommend our audience to take that will help them to up-level their personal and or professional life? So one action step.
Oh, that's a great one, because there's so many things that we can do. I think one easy action step is really just, if you have to schedule it, but take time for yourself. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, I don't care if it's first thing in the morning, last thing at night, take time for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes, to just sit, reflect on the day, think of the things you're grateful for, think of the things that you want to accomplish, whatever that 5 minutes means to you. But take a few minutes out of the day for yourself. You are the most important person in your life. If you don't take time for yourself and you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And I think we are so busy taking care of everybody else that we don't take time for ourselves. So one thing I try to do is just take 5 minutes any time of day, just to be with yourself, be with your thoughts, and just make sure you're taking care of yourself. Do what you need to do to take care of you.
That's so good. I love that, because I just started this morning doing that thing, because I find that I don't take that, like the mental time for myself to just sit, and because, the minute I get up, I'm going. And so this morning it was 3 minutes. I started with 3 minutes and just setting that 3 minutes aside. And you know what? I must admit that I felt a little stressed out taking out 3 minutes. So for me, just taking that 3 minutes was helpful, because now I'll make that a habit, right? And then move into the 5 minutes, and then maybe the 10 minutes, and and just taking time to sit with myself and be with myself. So I want to thank you so much for being here on the Women Action Takers. Appreciate you, what you're doing. I love it. It's it's fascinating to me how people, I don't know if I could write stories like that because I think I would just scare myself, but I'm glad you do that because I can read those. Oh, well, before we go, have you ever seen the movie Amityville Horror?
I certainly have. Of course I
Okay.
have. Yes,
Back
absolutely.
from the old days one with James Brolin.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So I've seen that movie many times. I read the book before I saw the movie, and I read the book probably 2 or 3 times before I saw the movie. And then we ended up buying the movie on DVD or whatever it is, on VHS or something like that, back in the day. And then we would watch it maybe every couple months or so. We'd watch the movie. Well, I had probably seen the movie 10, 15 times. One day I came home from work, and my husband was watching the movie. And that music, there was something about it that just struck a chord in that second. And I said, turn it off, turn it off. I can't hear that music ever. I can't.
It's
I don't
terrifying.
know what it was. Yeah. It's just something, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know what? I think so. There's triggers, right? That will trigger different things or memories for us. And I think, when you're in the moment experiencing it, it might not be top of mind, but it did something to you. Like that movie had an effect on you psychologically. It sat with you, something disturbed you about it. And then there was a trigger. The trigger was the music. And just the music alone will scare you. And yeah, I mean, definitely it happens. And this is honestly what I think horror and thriller and mystery, all of those areas, they rely on those triggers because, you really want to be able to reel people in. It's an emotional experience. Story is emotional. Be it true, be it fiction, whatever it is, it's an emotional ride. And that's what gets you hooked. So yeah, I think that was just your emotional trigger to something that terrified you.
Oh my
For sure.
gosh. Yeah. I've never figured it out. I'm not going to even like revisit it or anything, but I
Yeah,
did bring it up.
no, you just
Yeah.
not for you. That's it. It taught you something.
Maybe,
Not for you.
what I think I'll do? I think I'll go to YouTube and I'll search for the theme music from that movie and just play it and see if the trigger is still there. Cause this
Yeah,
was like 20
definitely.
years ago, but I was
Oh
like
yeah, you'd be
yelling,
surprised.
turn it off.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, that and the Halloween movie. The minute I hear it, I mean, I get like excited. Like I can't wait to watch it because, like, I'm like, ooh, because to me, it's entertainment, and I do think the Halloween movie was done. Oh my god, so well with what they had to work with. But yeah, it's like I get nervous. I get like the chills. I get like all of that. But definitely, I would love to hear what happens when you listen to it. Definitely,
Yeah, me too.
When your husband's home and it's daytime and all is well.
I'll do it right after here and I'll report back and let you know. I'll report back here as well for anybody watching, that you can find out how it affected me because, music, we have all these different senses, that's the sense of hearing, but it relates in so many different areas in our bodies, in our lives. And so, yeah, I'm excited that came up because now I'm going to go test myself.
Yes, go see. Maybe, you know what? It's something for you to overcome or it's something for you to learn. It taught you this is not for me. And, that's not, So it's going to teach you something one way or another. But
that's true. Sometimes it's so simple as that, right? This is just not for me. So.
That's it. That's all.
Yes. Well, everybody go to KristinaRienzi.com. Go check out her books, titles. She has more coming up. It ain't over. She's still going. And so look for her new book, about happiness in the end of this year, 2021, beginning of 2022. And just connect with her. She's on all the socials. Where can they find you on the socials?
Yeah, so I hang out primarily on Instagram and Facebook. I also have a newsletter. I send out like a inspirational, motivational little note every other week. So feel free to hook up there and just get a little, inbox inspiration. We could all use it, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I truly appreciate you and keep doing what you're doing and keep scaring everybody.
Yeah, right. And myself. Same to you. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Everybody have a great day and we'll see you soon. This is Linda Sunshine West with Women Action Takers. We'll talk to you soon.